Now, the Trump administration wants to revamp and rename a U.S. government program which is designed to counter violent ideologies so that it focuses solely on Islamist extremism. The program could change or would change from countering violent extremism to countering Islamic extremism or countering radical Islamic extremism. It will no longer target white supremacists, even though they've also carried out bombings and shootings in the United States. Such a change would reflect Trump's election campaign rhetoric and, of course, criticism of former President Barack Obama for being weak in the fight against ISIL. Well, many community groups are cautious about the program, partly over concerns that it could double as a surveillance tool for law enforcement. Well, let's get some more insight on this. Sasha Salama joins us in New York. Sasha, welcome to the show. Now, at this point, nothing President Trump's administration does comes as a surprise. However, this plan seems like it will certainly fuel the fire he created with the immigration ban. Now, any insights into what this new program will entail?
Sure, Uche. So there is currently a U.S. government program in place which was designed to counter all violent ideologies. It's called Countering Violent Extremism, or CVE, the acronym there. The Trump administration reportedly wants to revamp and rename this program so that it focuses exclusively on Islamist extremism. 5 people briefed on this matter have told Reuters that the program's name, for example, might be changed from countering violent extremism to countering radical Islamic extremism. If this change were in fact to take place, it would reflect President Trump's criticism, as you mentioned, of former President Obama for being weak in the fight against Islamic State and for refusing, for example, to use the phrase radical Islam.
Now, Sasha, we're already seeing headlines like Trump to cut white supremacy from counter-extremism program. Suddenly, what kind of reactions do you expect to see in the coming days from the American public?
It'll be very interesting. And in fact, sources do tell Reuters that if the Trump administration has its way, the counter-extremism program would no longer target groups such as white supremacist groups, focusing instead solely on Islamic extremist groups. We do expect to see mixed reactions over the next few days. Some people who support the program say that revamping it could make it even more difficult for the Trump administration to work with Muslim groups. And there are more than 3 million Americans who practice Islam in the U.S. and are peaceful people. Of course, there are heightened sensitivities ever since last week when President Trump issued that executive order putting a temporary ban on travel to the U.S. from 7 mostly Muslim countries around the world. But other people, including some who actually support the program as it is now, say that the program has been completely ineffective and could actually use a change. It's worth noting that indeed some acts of violence in the U.S. are committed by white supremacists. For example, you may remember there was a shooting rampage at an African-American church in South Carolina. That was about 1.5 years ago. It left 9 people dead. In fact, just a few weeks ago, the 22-year-old shooter, Dylan Roof, was sentenced to death for that crime. Uche.
Well, Sasha, we know this news is coming from sources in the White House, but of course with Trump's administration, you never know. The narrative could suddenly change. It could become fake news, or we could see a plan announced in the next few days. What do you expect to see coming from the Trump administration?
Well, just because fighting ISIS was such a key platform of President Trump's campaign messaging, it is unlikely that this plan will be revealed as some kind of fake news, as we've been hearing about, although, as you point out, anything is possible. That said, to put this program in perspective, as government programs go in the U.S., it's not a big one in terms of the dollars allocated to it. Last year, for example, The U.S. Congress gave just $10 million in grants for efforts to countering violent terrorism, grants mostly that go to city police departments, universities, and also nonprofit organizations. Uche.
Well, many thanks for those insights. We'll certainly be watching. Sasha Salama joining us there in New York.